What's going on, guys? Thank you for tuning in this week. Thank you for joining me each week, those of you that watch. I hope these videos help and maybe encourage or challenge and build people up, because that's my hope anyway. This video is also going to be kind of like a barometer, I guess, as far as where we are at in our faith and maybe where we should be. If we're not where we should be, then maybe how to get there. So if you guys are interested, please stay tuned. Let's get into it. So, how many of you guys have heard this phrase, God knows my heart? I've heard this phrase quite a bit. And God brought this phrase to my mind this past week, and some interesting scriptures that I wanted to share with you. So before I unpack this and what he kind of revealed to me, I want to share these scriptures with you. First one being in John chapter 14, verse 15. This is Jesus talking. He says, "If you love me, keep my commandments." Second scripture, also in John chapter 21, verses 15 through 18. Now, I'm not going to read the whole scripture. I'm just going to pull little nuggets from here, but this is Jesus talking to Peter. He was restoring Peter after Peter had denied him. And Jesus now is raised, and he was having breakfast with his disciples. And so after breakfast, he asked Peter, "Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me more than these?" And Peter was like, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." And so he says, "Feed my lambs." Then he says again, "Do you love me?" And Peter's like, "Yes, I do." So he's like, "Tend my sheep." And then he says, "Do you love me?" And he's like, "Yes, you know that I love you." He's like, "Feed my sheep." All of these are actions that he's telling Peter to do, right? Feed my sheep, tend my sheep, feed my lambs. All of these are actions. They're not just so you can kind of sit by and like, wow, that's really cool. That's really cool. He wants him to do these actions, look after like his flock, his people. Then this other scripture, 1 John chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. Now by this we know that we know him if we keep his commandments. He who says, "I know him," and does not keep his commandments is a liar, and the truth is not in him. Now all of these scriptures I bring up because God brought the phrase, "God knows my heart," to my mind, and he brought not just the phrase, but like this, I guess, epiphany, or this understanding that sometimes we as Christians will use this phrase as a cop-out when we don't want to change. When we have read something in scripture and it's challenged us that maybe we need to be more involved and help his people, or obey his commandments more, that we haven't been obeying his commandments. And instead of changing and doing better, we say, well, God knows my heart. Because you're like, that's too tough. It requires too much effort for me to do. And it requires too much change. I got a lot going on in my life, and that would just upend everything, because my kids are in sports, or I work 4 or 5 jobs, I work 3 jobs, I do this, I go to school, all of this, like my time is filled with all of this stuff. I have no time to volunteer and give to the church. I have no time to help people, especially for free. I got bills to pay, all of these excuses. So they're like, well, God knows my heart. He knows that I'm a Christian. He knows that I love him. He knows my heart. He knows what I would like to do. I'm there in spirit. All of these things brought to my mind based off of that one phrase, that we use that as a cop-out when we don't want to change, when we're convicted and we don't want to change because we got to get stuff done. We're go, and all of this requires to us maybe slow down, unplug, maybe take an assignment that is not paid. That's a volunteer assignment. Like, why would God want that? You know, he knows that I have a mortgage I have to pay. He knows I got bills I got to pay. I got kids I got to feed. Yes, he knows that, and he will take care of that. But he wants you to be involved in feeding his lambs, tending his sheep, feeding his sheep, being his hands and feet, obeying his commandments, being involved. That's how we love him, by obeying his commandments. So I was compelled to make this video about this because God brought this to my mind. So comment below if you've heard other phrases that you kind of feel are maybe cop-outs as well, that you've heard Christians use that maybe we shouldn't use, that maybe we should think twice about using, that maybe if we're challenged or convicted on a scripture that we read that God is telling us we need to change, that perhaps maybe we change. We don't know what the outcome is. God knows. But what we do know is we trust him, and we put our future and our lives in his hands. He directs our life. So don't be scared. So I'm hoping somebody needed to hear this, and please share it with your friends, like and subscribe, and stay tuned for next week's episode.